has to do with the conflicting demands between peace and justice, truth and reconciliation in transitions from authoritarian to democratic rule. In recent history, we have some examples of the usually sudden collapse of authoritarian regimes, usually in the aftermath of failed military adventures. This has been the case of Portugal, Greece, and Argentina. In most cases, however, the transition to democracy was a long process driven by many factors combining pressure from civil society and the international community with power fatigue and economic hardship. In both situations, the question of how to deal with past atrocities has been a thorny issue for newly restored democracies. Different countries have chosen different paths. Some who had opted for a policy of retribution were unwillingly forced to make concessions to safeguard their fragile democracy. Others who had tried to negate the wounds of the past were incapable to heal their societies. Gradually, the notion of truth as a precondition for peace and reconciliation has emerged as an alternative to either outright impunity or the punishment of the many guilty of human rights abuse. Some measures of reparation for the victims is an indispensable component of the healing process. This requires, at the very least, that the state takes the lead in conducting a full investigation and sheds light on violation committed by its agents. This is also the best way to prevent the repetition of these atrocities. I must avoid to you, being former head of state, it's not easy. It is extremely difficult because the head of states, even when take the decision to do something in that matter, will have the immediate reaction of those who have been involved in the past with violation of human rights. And very often, they will negate the existence of documents to prove anything. If you allow me, in my own experience. Once, I remember was in Bahia, Brazilian province, the local federal police had in its office some documents about how one former guerrilla leader was killed, and with photographs, so on and so forth, and this man's wife too. So I called supposed responsible, not for the act, but in the institutional base in Brazil. I called the ministers, which had to respond to me. What's that? And sincerely, one of the ministers said, President, probably there are documents, but I don't have access to documents, because there are no more within our archives. Probably from time to time some documents will appear, but they are in the hands of those who have been involved in the practice of the atrocities, no more in official archives. So the human rights movement is asking for, let's open the archives. Now the archives are open, but empty. There are no documents, nothing to do. The same applies to the victims of guerrilla war. Where are the bodies? Probably there are people, some people knows, but the state as such has no registers about it. So it's a very embarrassing situation. Because even when the political decision has been made, we don't have the instruments, to substantiate denunciation, so on and so forth. Anyhow, something has to be done. In our case, once in time I decided to ask for pardon to the Brazilian society. Being myself put in exile by the military and having put in prison by the military, but I said, I will ask for pardon, not in my name, but the name of the Brazilian state. And I tried to make a kind of reconciliation. So I signed a bill proposing some reparations for victims. And I asked, the wife of one of the guys who had been killed in torture. By the way, it was a friend of mine, and she was also my friend. They came to my office. She came to my office, and the military chief of staff, the general, was there, and I signed the decree both have been very emotional with the situation. The other day, every newspaper reproduced the photograph with a general and this lady, so on and so forth, and we start the process of reparation. This process is going on, and it still continues. But anyhow, this is maybe not enough, because those who are family victims want more. They want to know where the bodies are. And this, it's simply difficult. Even when the political power, at least president or some ministers, are willing to give a more correct answer. In other cases, as you see in Argentina, it's still more dramatic, because the number of victims is counted by thousands, not by hundreds, as in Brazil or in Chile. And in Argentina, the process is still much more difficult. The reconciliation is still difficult. In other situations, like in South Africa, the enormous, symbolic action by Mandela and Tutu, Bishop Tutu, to create an instrument for reconciliation, have worked to some extent. Anyhow, I think it's important and necessary to create instruments to allow a kind of reconciliation, in order to, as I said, to prevent the repetition of the atrocities. And in any case, you cannot deny that atrocities existed, and there are some responsibles, even if they are not in jail. If when we have, as we have in Brazil, an amnesty law, you cannot deny the fact that they were there and they were responsible for atrocities. The process of reconciliation is further enhanced when perpetrators or members of warring factions acknowledge their deeds and ask for some kind of forgiveness from their victims. Thus, the power of the old biblical saying, "Truth shall set you free," was put to the test and proved more accurate than ever. I think it's time to conclude. The common thread running through this inventory of challenges is that for each and every issue, there is not an easy, simple, or definitive answer to be found. Argument and debate are the means to build a consensus. What is new and promising, let me stress again, is the enlargement of the act of participating in the process of deliberation. The best safeguard for human rights is the strengthening of a global culture of participation and responsibility. This belief was the foundation of Sérgio Vieira de Mello's life. Elie Wiesel once asked whether, as a survivor of Auschwitz, he spoke for those who had died in the concentration camps. His answer was, "Nobody speaks for the dead. They speak by themselves. The question is, are we capable of listening?" In this spirit, let us be inspired by Sérgio's ultimate sacrifice and that of the brave men and women fallen in the attack against the United Nations compound in Baghdad. Thank you very much.